and welcome to episode 5 of the Football Fanatic podcast. I'm your host, Declan O'Connor. With me this week are stalwarts Daniel and Howard, and we have brought along a diehard Leeds United fan, Andrew Lennon. You can call him Lenny. How are you doing, Lenny?
Great, Deck. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Not at all. Delighted to have you on. Can't wait to hear. Can't wait to hear what it's like to be a Leeds fan these days. I just want to say also thank everyone who has subscribed to the show so far. After last week's episode, we had a real kind of big jump in subscribers. So just thank you very much for subscribing and following. We're on YouTube and Spotify. You can find us at Football Fanatic Podcast on both of those, and we would really appreciate subscribing and following on both. It's free to do, so please do follow us and help the podcast to grow. So it was an action-packed weekend of football. A lot of goals, a lot of talking points, a lot of Irish interest as well, for one man in particular, Evan Ferguson. So we're going to start with Brighton versus Newcastle Saturday evening. Dan, we're going to start with you. Brighton versus Newcastle. I know, like, Newcastle have had after this game, they've had a tough start to the season. But I mean, Brighton, the kind of spotlight is on Evan Ferguson now. What did you think of the match?
Yeah, I think I stuck it into the group there after the match of just how good Brighton are to watch. Firstly, I just thought they're so well drilled. It just seems to be whatever starting lineup that Serbi puts out, they're a really good watch. They were a good watch last week against West Ham as well, even though it didn't go their way. Did have it down as a draw myself. Thought it'd be tight enough, but Brighton were by far, I thought, on the balance of the 90 minutes were much better. And of course, Ferguson done what he does. You give him a chance, he's taken them, isn't he? And it was nice to see him even to get the hat trick the way way he got it. Yeah, it was nice. I think the way everything was going from in the game, it was inevitable that you're going to get a third. But it's fantastic for Ireland. We mentioned it here on the podcast a couple of times before. I think around, like, there is a lot of talk around them. Would he remain at Brighton? And also, we had big strikers like Lineker and Shearer who were singing his praises as well at the start of the season. So he seems to have a bit of everything about him. He's only 18. It's crazy. He is only 18. I think he was the third after Michael Owen, as in Owen, Rooney, and Jeffers are the only players that have scored more goals than him. Before they turned 19, which is an amazing stat as well. So he's in good company there. One thought I did have just on Brighton, like, again, like, obviously, if he does move on eventually, like, if the likes of your man Hoyland that United signed got 72 million, like, what would you get for Ferguson? I was just thinking about that again. Like, he surely we're talking 100 plus,
Yeah, that's my next question. Lenny, I'll come on to you now with this one. How long can Brighton hold on to Evan Ferguson, in your opinion?
I think that's a very good question. And if the transfer window was open another week, he could have been gone somewhere. But yeah, I think it's for his own benefit that he stayed there.
I agree, and I think he signed a new deal during the summer, didn't he?
Or I think it was the end of last season.
Was it the end of last year?
Yeah, so they got him on a good contract, and I think, for such a young lad, I think, I don't think he needs to, go to Chelsea or anywhere like that too soon. You look at the likes of Erling Haaland, the way he plied his trade and didn't take the big move straight away and moved on to Dortmund in the Bundesliga, and you see Jude Bellingham as well. And instead of going straight for one of these, super clubs.
That's actually a really good point, and I hadn't even thought of that one. The route that they took, as opposed to going from, I'll call Brighton a smaller club. I don't mean any disrespect to them. Dan, say the likes of United, Chelsea, Liverpool, City, etc. The likes of Haaland and Bellingham, they went from, in Bellingham's case, Birmingham to Dortmund, and now obviously Real Madrid, where he's become a world star. Haaland likewise from Salzburg. Salzburg to Dortmund to City. So I mean, absolutely. So, like, realistically, Howard, Brighton, they're not going to hold on to Evan Ferguson in the long term. where would you see Ferguson's next move, in your opinion?
Well, yeah, look, I think what Lenny said there is correct. I think he's in the perfect place at the moment. Like, the one thing he has to do is probably not play 100% of the games all the time, but be playing 70, 80%. And I think he's going to be doing that at Brighton. Like, the worst thing that could happen he has all the talent. The worst thing is he could pick up an injury now, an ACL or something like that, and he'd be screwed. Like, if he's kind of in and out of the team at 18, doing what he's doing now, he's probably at the perfect club right now, like, Tony Bloom, we all know what he's like in negotiating. Like, we say, oh, it's 100 million, lads. It's not going to be 100 million. It's going to be more than 100 million for a striker. 18, like Caicedo went as offensive fielder. They're going to charge an arm and a leg. It'll be 130, 140. And if they're like, he's 18. If we don't get that price now, sure, just keep him. It's like Brighton are in no rush to sell him. Like, so I think he's perfect where he is right now. Like, I've heard murmurs there, like what happened last season with Arsenal when the window closed that January. It was like Arsenal are going to go for Declan Rice in summer. Like, that was doing the rounds. Like, it was already in motion. And the same thing was with Gabriel Jesus at the end of January last year. I'm hearing for next summer they'd be keen on getting someone like Evan Ferguson in, because they need someone big up front like that, like, who can hold up the ball. But like, forget about going to Brighton and trying to spend the money that you need to spend on him. Like,
absolutely. Because just think about next summer, if Højlund doesn't work.
Yeah.
Next summer, Chelsea. So who is if Jackson doesn't work? Lukaku's gone. He's not coming back. He's not coming back full time anyways. Arsenal, if Gabriel Jesus is injury prone. There are a number of clubs in England. For whatever reason, I don't see him going abroad, but I could be completely wrong with that one. But there are a number of clubs in England. Well, then again, look, I say that now, but look at Bellingham. He went off to Germany. And sorry, Dan, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, there's a couple of things there. Like, irony is that he wouldn't have started at the weekend, and only that Welbeck was injured. That's Welbeck had started most of the games, so he probably, I think Zerbi would probably be playing him sparingly enough. He started the season, he's been playing him sparingly enough anyway. But I just think that, a couple of weeks ago, say before the season really got into gear, Kane went for 100 million, obviously to Munich, and there was kind of rumours, it was more paper talk than anything as well, about Spurs could potentially maybe go and test the water with him. When you see that, like, Spurs have gone and spent, was it nearly 50 million on the lad from Forest?
That's Forest.
Yeah. You just kind of wonder, like, like, Spurs are probably, I don't know if that ship is kind of sailed for them now, but I kind of think if you're good enough, I know I kind of think he's good where he is at the moment, but I just have the feeling that if you're good enough, a big club won't wait too long before they come in and knocking. And I'd be interested, like Howard said there, about it in a year's time, and Brighton could fleece somebody. They are going to fleece somebody.
Yeah,
considering.
I think that's going to put people off, Dan. I think that's going to be like clubs aren't even going to be like, right, we'll have Evan Ferguson at the top of the list, but we're willing to spend 100 million, but they're not going to get him for 100 million. So, like, I think he could be there for another while yet. I think, and it probably suits him to be there. You know what I mean?
Very humble as well, isn't he? He comes across very well.
He comes across absolutely, yeah. All right. Quick word on Newcastle. Not the best, not the brightest of starts to the season. Eddie Howe, would he be a little bit worried?
The depth. No. We talked about it.
Yeah.
Matt Target a left back. Dan Byrne playing centre back. You could see it there at the weekend.
You're right, Dan. Yeah, Botman was a big loss, but like they have 3 losses now. Is that like? Can we confirm now? Or are we thinking right? Newcastle, like they may have be a chance at challengers. Are we saying now they're out of the challenging for the title at this stage?
Not yet. Sorry, Lenny, go ahead.
I would say, this is the difficult second album for Newcastle. After their, I suppose, breakthrough season last year, they haven't got to a great start, and I think it's going to get more difficult as they start their European campaign. I think clubs that haven't been in Europe for a while and then qualify, I think they usually struggle in the league. Then I think back to Leicester a few years ago, when they won the league, and then they were in Europe the following year and they struggled in the league, even though they did all right in Europe. They did all right in Europe that year, but managing, juggling the two, a European campaign which is completely brand new to that team, and you really need the the strength and the depth of the squad and the experience of that. So I think, like, if Newcastle can just stay top 4 again, that would be an unbelievable season for them if they cement their place there. So I think a difficult year ahead.
I agree. We shall see. Okay, we'll move on. Man City versus Fulham. This was a very good result. I didn't think we played very well in the first half. I thought in the second half we moved it up a gear big time. Haaland got another hat trick. I mean, he just scores for fun. Like, it's he's a freak of nature, and like, City are so lucky to have him. But that's not the kind of point I want to focus on. I want to focus on the VAR incident for the second goal for City, Nathan Ake's header. A lot of people saying that it was offside, it shouldn't have been given. I have my own thoughts on it, but I'd like to hear yours first of all. Just very quickly, Howard, should have been given.
As I was saying, I've seen the highlights. I wasn't watching it live, and I saw my WhatsApp page go a bit mad, saying how it was a joke, and the Twitter feed was saying it's a joke that it was given. When I watched it back, my initial feeling was it was like, I've seen them given, like, you've seen them given as offside, but I also thought, like, it wasn't like, oh, some conspiracy against City, how is this, like, Stonewall offside. Now, when I watched the replay, then that was a bit different, because the keeper was going to the right for Ake's header anyway, but he did do a little shuffle, a small little stutter. Because I've
heard about this stutter, and I can't see a stutter at all.
There was a stutter.
I think it's complete. It's bullshit. I can't see a stutter at all. I'm going to interrupt you there and just basically, okay.
Well, I'd say Dan might have the same opinion as me, but that's
I know well he will. That's why I'm going to leave him for a few seconds just to gather his thoughts and have a proper attack at me now in a sec. Basically, okay, ball came in. Ake headed the ball towards goal. Akanji did not touch it. He elegantly jumped over the ball. I thought, look at Dan shaking his head.
Oh my God!
You'll have your turn.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. And Kanji elegantly jumped over the ball. He was not in the Fulham goalkeeper's line of view whatsoever. That can't be argued. All right. Look at the replay. He was not in his line of view, so therefore he cannot surely be interfering with play. He didn't touch the ball. He's not in his line of view. So I mean, where is your argument that it should not be given?
The stutter deck.
Bullshit. Dan, go ahead.
No, it clearly Leno probably would have saved that. Like honestly, like, it can't be basically done. Like, it's like a fucking 100-meter hurdle. You fucking bunny hop the ball, like.
It was like a ballerina. He beautifully avoided the ball.
I don't know. I know you're struggling with sinus infection, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But fuck me, like, it was definitely 100%. Like, they were done, and I think, actually, listen to everyone's opinion. I listen to all of the pundits, the referees. They're all saying that was a fucking shocking decision. So, and it was, and it changed the game, because City were shit up until that point as well. They were poor in the first half.
We were poor. We were poor. No need to say we were shit. This is a family program, Dan. Right?
Well, it annoyed me anyway. It actually annoyed me. It annoyed me. I thought it did. It's weird. Fulham,
I can sense it annoyed you. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
All right. So now listen. Okay. You're a Liverpool fan. Howard's a Arsenal fan.
Oh yeah.
Come here, Lenny. You're the most impartial person here. What did you think of the incident?
Listen, if that goal went against City, I was just thinking, what would Pep Guardiola be like? He would be hopping. So, if it goes for your deck, it's all well and good. But I think, I thought it was very harsh, and that's your textbook home decision. And did it really alter the game? It's hard to know. It was 5-1 in the end. So, but I think these are small bits.
Fair enough. I'll take your opinions on it, lads, but I disagree. Yeah. Basically, for the 2 points, he was not in the goalie's line of view. He didn't touch the ball. That's my opinion, but I appreciate where you're coming from.
Like, he was in the 6-yard box.
Was he interfering with play though? Isn't that the key thing?
In my opinion, he wasn't.
But if the keeper sees him in his line of vision, but like beside him, like about to touch the ball potentially, but he jumps over it, surely the keeper might stutter and not actually go to where the ball is actually going. You know what I mean? They could be put off potentially. Look, anyway, I don't think it was going to change.
I'll have a look at the highlights
overall
again
result.
to see this so-called stutter.
Just to say though that City, in my opinion, didn't play well, and they still managed to hockey
No.
Fulham. So it just goes to show you the strength and depth they have as well.
Yeah. Okay. I will move on to Arsenal versus Man United yesterday. All right. This wasn't probably the best of games in terms of quality, but in terms of excitement, I thought had some really, really interesting incidents. End result being 3-1. Declan Rice got a fantastic goal at the end. Gabriel Jesus made a return. Dan, what did you think of this game?
I thought it was really good, especially second half. First half was cagey enough. Obviously there was the very two quick goals. United kind of weren't really showing a whole lot, and then just out of nowhere, Rashford showed his quality from the left, didn't he? So as did Odegaard then as well. I love watching Odegaard play, to be honest. I think he's exceptional, and you'd take a money to go and watch him play on a week-to-week basis. And I think he's very, very important to Arsenal. I think if you take him out of that team, they don't have another player with the quality that he has to find the passes. But yeah, it was really good, especially the last few minutes. The atmosphere, you can really feel it through the television. I can really hear Howard fucking roaring from my house. Look, it was a good game. I think United as well, were unlucky not to go away with a point, because I think they defended well. Thought Arsenal kind of ran out of ideas a small bit, and I thought that they were close to getting a point. In the end, 3-1 probably flatters Arsenal a bit, on the balance of the game. But it's a massive win for the Gunners. It was one of them as well, like where it was nearly like an early season 6-pointer of sorts. I don't know, both of them really.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. I suppose just one incident, Dan, the Havertz penalty that was given then rescinded.
Yeah, it's never a pen.
What did you think of it? No, I agree fully.
It looked in real time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In real time, it looked like an absolute penalty, but that's why VAR is here to kind of right those wrongs. And in fairness, like, it did its job there. Howard, I'm going to move on to next. First of all, when Rice got the goal, what was the response? What was the reaction?
It's funny, right? So, we're talking about VAR and everything. It does, as good as many decisions gets right, it does kind of, and this plays up to the question you're asking me, it does play a part in, like, your celebrations to a point, like, you know what I mean? Because, like, you're like, it's like, oh. And when I saw that cross come in for the corner, I could see the tussle between Evans and Gabriel happening as well. And then when Rice put it in, I was like, yes, but I was kind of like, fuck, they're going to call this back and look at this, and they're going to. So that was going around my head as well. You know what I mean? When these things happen. So that kind of put a bit of a, that VAR kind of stuff puts a bit of a pain, that kind of stuff. But look, overall, as Dan, like, the first half, lads, I was very, I was nervous and everything, but it was a terrible game. I thought the first half, like and I don't think it was the fault. It wasn't like lacking quality or that. Like, it was just United came with a game plan, and they did very well with the game plan. And that was to stifle and just keep the ball between Onana and the halfway line, and just do that, play 10-yard passes in triangles and keep the ball there, and it works. It quietens the crowd, but like, it really makes for a bad spectacle. Like, it really does. Like, Gary Neville was there on commentary. Why Arsenal should do a higher press, more intense press and all this. But like, United want you to go at them. They want you so they can open you up from a counter attack. So Arteta was like, look, I'd say it was just like, come on, let's keep it first half. If they want to keep it like that, we'll, anytime we get the ball, we'll try and make use of it. But it does Arsenal, our team, if they get into the momentum, to remind me of like the Liverpool in Anfield now these days, like, when they get into that momentum, they start clicking. They're very hard to stop, like, especially with Martinelli and Asaka. But like, United, in fairness, that'll be a plan now. I think I'd say Ten Hag looked at that, the record they had last year, and they said, geez, we're so bad away from home against the top 9 teams. How do we control games? And this is their way of doing it. But it's pretty miserable way of going about it, to be honest. Pretty miserable.
Just a quick one. Are you comparing the Emirates atmosphere to the Anfield roar?
No. What I'm comparing about is when Liverpool get into a flow in Anfield, whether it's the atmosphere or whatever that's to do with it, they are very, very difficult to stop. Like last year when
I
Arsenal
agree,
went there, after 30 minutes, Arsenal were dominating, and all of a sudden, Xhaka bumps into some lad and Trent Alexander-Arnold, and
Yeah, fair point. Yep.
literally is just like you can't stop them. Like, you know what I mean? So they had a now. Look, there was a lot of there was a lot of highs and lows in that game. It was mental. Like it was like with you have the Havertz penalty, then it's not a penalty. Then Garnacho, the goal he gets, and to be honest, lads, I watched that in real time. I was like, he's on, because I thought Gabriel didn't come up quick enough. I thought he was on. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake! This is typical snatch and grab from United. And then they were like looking, and in fairness to Gabriel, I don't know if you've seen that replay, like the line, he just like throws his
He did,
body
yeah,
back,
he held
like in
himself very well.
fairness. He did, like, you know, they're saying the Michael Jackson kind of, you know, the leaning forward kind of.
It would have been a great goal, though, wouldn't it? If it had stood, though,
It would have been a great
Yeah.
little flick by Hoyland. I thought, look, Bright coming on. I think that's one positive for United. He looked sharp, and he looked strong. He looks like an Oxford man.
On that, all right. After the match, Ten Hag gave, I thought it was an interesting interview. It seemed a little bit petulant, to be honest. He was saying that Garnacho's goal should have stood, even though, I mean, look, we've seen it. He was offside. That's just a given. He also said Hoyland should have had a penalty. Lenny, you're a Leeds fan, so I'm sure that you love Man United.
Yeah.
What did you think of Ten Hag, of his interview? What do you think of the match yesterday?
Yeah, I thought I seen the interview, and you know, I was a bit bemused the way he was so adamant about it, and you know, he was kind of, I don't know, maybe he was using it to deflect a bit or off the players, you know, and because they did play reasonably well, and they probably deserved to get a point out of it, but yeah, it was just, yeah, his whole demeanor was a bit kind of, maybe he was just trying to be defiant and keep spirits up in the camp, but you know, the offside was probably harsh, but the penalty claim for Hoyland, I thought, was very, very.
I didn't see anything there at all.
No.
Yeah,
it was. He went off on one, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense. I think he joins the kind of, you know, managers. I know Klopp has got a bit of it doing last year for a lot of whinging and moaning, but I think Ten Hag definitely was in that club yesterday. And one other thing just on United though as well, and I know we're talking about the positives, but like, you know, he was trying to deflect away as well. I think the fact that they've only won, you know, they've won the amount of points that they have gone into the break. So like they could have and should have been beaten by Wolves. You know, the whole Onana absolutely, you know, spearing two lads out of us. like you know what I mean? Like they definitely should have gotten 0 points against Wolves. They came back against Forest fair enough, but like they could have lost that game. Went away and were battered by Spurs, and then they were beaten at the Emirates. So like they could actually have 0 points. So I think they're doing well to have 6 after 4 games, to be honest.
It's been fun watching on the social media, watching the United fans. I don't know if you know on Twitter that there's sometimes these watch-alongs that have, like, you know, a United fans or one fan, and they're all watching the game, and like they're celebrating the first goal and they're all jumping around, and all of a sudden like they're hugging each other. Behind the hug, they're seeing Odegaard score, like, you know, 35 seconds later, and then the Garnacho outside. So it was, you know, comical, great, you know, video evidence there that we can put down in the history books forever.
I think two of Norwich scarves has gone up there since yesterday as well.
Yeah, I know.
They fluctuate. They were going back down there last week, and now they're shot back up again. Especially when they finished the game with Maguire and Evans on the pitch.
That was an interesting sight, I'll tell you. Johnny Evans back at that. That was the most bizarre signing of the summer, in my opinion. Anyway. But we'll get to the transfer review in a sec. Okay, move on to Liverpool versus Villa. Liverpool 3-0. For me, this was the best Liverpool have played all season so far. They were just back to what Liverpool have been, in my opinion, over the last few years. They were quick. They were sharp. I thought their midfield looked strong. Dan, what did you think of the game?
Yeah, no, they did. They played well. Obviously, the early goal helps, and it was a cracker. I'll get on to the Sebastian in a minute, but I just thought that Villa were quite naive. They played like a really high line at Anfield. They got caught in behind. Like on another day we could have hit them for 5 or 6. To be honest, I thought. I just thought they were quite naive at the back in particular. and they left an awful lot of space for us to play. I think we did play well though. We did. And I think Trent had a field day. He was nearly every pass was nearly a half a chance or on build up to a chance. Interesting to see now how his injury is. I think it's hamstring. So they're doing a scan on it, I think, today to see to the extent of that. But he was excellent. And yeah, we did play well. It was a great result. Again, like going into the international break, it's a good place to be on 10 points after a difficult enough fixture list for the start of the season. And I thought Sebastian was just excellent. I think he can do everything.
He looks like a very, very good player, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he has the work rate that we need. We haven't had a player for a number of years that can get in, will run off the back of defenders from midfield. We had a really workman-like midfield where he, gets in the box. He obviously has a really good shot, as we've seen at the weekend. And I know from looking at his highlight reel, he's got a lot of them for Leipzig as well. So, I think more to come from him, but thought he was brilliant. And the lads, in fairness, Gomez and Matty, I looked at that game thinking this is going to be a dodgy one, to be honest, when I know that Canati was injured and like
of course,
but to come away out of that with a clean sheet and did quite well. And I think confidence seems to be high. You can see it in them that once the first goal went in, as Howard kind of said there, you kind of got that feeling they were really up for it. They were kind of closing down. They were giving no space for Villa to try and get in behind. Yeah, and I thought Villa were a bit naive. I'm surprised in Emery that he wasn't a bit more kind of Emery-like, I suppose. In a way. I know, even though he's bought an awful lot of players that are more flair players to kind of go against his principles of being well organised and as well. But yeah, great result and delighted. It's a delight going into the break with 10 points.
No, I can hear that you are delighted and you're saying confidence is high. I'm just wondering, in the next few days, is that confidence going to be tested with Al Ittihad? I see on Sky Sports just before it came on that they are going to make another offer before the end of the Saudi window, which is on Thursday. So, Dan, I'm going to leave you idle just for the moment, and I'm going to get the other two lads' opinion on this. Howard, obviously 150 million was rejected last Friday from Al Ittihad for Salah. If they come in with, look, it's going to be an improved bid. So 175, 200 million. If they came in with 200 million, do you think the Liverpool owners would accept?
I think they're going to come in with 200 million. I think that's pretty much guaranteed. But I don't. I think Liverpool owners will push back. I think if they had time, if it's midsummer and they were given this, I'd say they would have taken it. I actually think they would have taken it. But I think what's stopping the Saudis coming in January or next summer for 150 or maybe 135? They're probably going to get that money, by next summer anyway. So maybe a bit less. But if you take Salah out of that team now, and the start that Liverpool have made, that's them gone out of any chance of a challenging title anyway, and maybe their top four hopes. So if you're weighing it up like that, it's too much of a risk, I think, to sell them at this stage.
What is?
No matter what,
no matter what, huge risk.
Especially when you have that kind of safety net that come January, if you're not in the hunt for anything, or come next summer, you can still get a decent price for them off these guys, and they'll want them then. You know what I mean? I think just on the El Etihad thing, apparently the reason they're trying to get him now is it's for some Saudi Cup or there's something that they're in the semi-final or final of, and they want to have him showcased for that. And if they don't bid for him now, or their bid gets rejected, it'll be a different Saudi team that will come in January or the summer next year, but it'll be PFF or Saudi Arabia will be buying them anyway. So
the PIF, the Public Investment Fund.
Yeah.
Lenny, just on that, so say you're Liverpool's owners and they come in on Thursday morning with a 200 million. You can imagine what that would do to rebuild. Not rebuild, you don't need rebuilding, but to improve the squad, be it in January or next summer. What do you think? Are you in the same boat as Howard?
I think, from a financial point of view, you'd obviously be thinking that's worth considering. But I think the instability it will cause for the rest of the season, not even in January, because let's face it, there's no real big deals done in January. You're not going to get a marquee signing in the middle of the season. Very rarely it happens. And, anyone that's going buying in January is usually desperate. So they'd only get fleeced if they went to look at replace Salah in January. So if I was Liverpool management, I would be keeping him. Maybe let him go next season, but yeah, I think too much disruption.
I agree. It would completely disrupt Liverpool. It would piss Klopp off to the point that he could literally walk out the door the next day. I don't know. I'm trying to kind of put my kind of head into the owner's kind of business point of view here. We're going to offer you 200 million right now, and as well as that, they're making a bid surely, and they're coming back with a renewed bid. They have to have been given some indication somewhere that like Salah is willing to at least listen, maybe not accept, but they're interested in what they have to say.
He'll go. I think he'll go if the offer is accepted. He's gone. Like he's going to be making whatever he's making now. He's going to be making
1.5 million a week.
Whatever he's making, a week now. He's going to be making it a day over there. But anyway.
All right, Dan, we will leave the final word to you.
Yeah, no, I don't expect him to go, but I agree with most of what you said there. Like, I think disruption. I think that the FSG, the fans with FSG, obviously, it's been a very turmoil. I suppose there's been a lot of turmoil this summer, and I think that they know they're not stupid. They know what it would do if they were to let Salah take the money and go. And I think they also know what Jurgen Klopp's thoughts are on it, which I've watched all his press conferences on it. He's adamant that he doesn't want him to be sold, but also mentioned it's not me that'll make the decision, which of course it's not. But you would imagine he'd have a fairly big say. And I think that the pulling power of Klopp, the turmoil around FSG, would be two reasons. And I get what you're saying. Like, the money will still be there in 12 months' time. I still actually wouldn't be sure whether or not Salah will go in 12 months' time, though. If a big offer comes on the table, he is going to be 32? Maybe 32 next summer. So, but he has signed that big contract. I think it's a bit of a PR stunt, to be honest. Part of me thinks that whether they actually, I think they know they mightn't get him, but I think they're just trying to show the money that they have and the power that they have to go and start, firing off this money and buy all the clubs because their window is closed and be kind of like, here you go, we're gonna fuck with you guys. So I'd be going if he's not go. So I'd be going if he was to go, and I'm not going to say he's 100% staying because nothing is for certain in football. But I really doubt that he'd be gone this summer. I agree with Howard though. If I had to come in end of June, maybe start of July, and it was big money like that, it could have been a different conversation. But I don't think there's any really though.
All right. I swear to God. All right. On Friday morning, if Salah has moved to Saudi Arabia, I'm gonna come on to a one-man podcast and just laugh for an entire hour and dedicate it to you.
Is it deadline? Okay. That's the deadline on Friday.
Thursday 10 p.m. is the deadline for Saudi. So, all right. So the remaining fixtures: Palace 3, Wolves 2, Burnley 2, Spurs 5, Ange Ball. Again, probably the best I've seen Spurs play this so far in the first 4 games, and they've done it with Son in the middle and Richarlison on the bench. Solomon assistant too. So I mean, could that be Richarlison on the bench for a few games, possibly? Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, Son's hat trick. He's a fantastic player, and I mean, if playing him through the middle gets the best out of him, absolutely. Brentford 2, Bournemouth 2, Sheffield United 2, Everton 2. I had to laugh at Jordan Pickford in the goal that went in off the back of his head. It's just a pure Pickford thing to happen. Chelsea 0.
Yeah,
it was
a Pickford thing as well. The save again was unbelievable.
Yeah. Chelsea 0, Notts Forest 1. That was definitely unexpected. It's been an okay start for Chelsea. I know you're saying they're playing good football and it's definitely it's a work in progress, but that was never on the cards. None of us would have. I wouldn't have thought that anyways. And finally, Luton.
Just
sorry, go ahead.
It was like the competition between the two recruiters, Nottingham Forest, who's recruited I don't know how many bloody people, and then Chelsea as well. The two financial teams going at each other. But I think Chelsea, they'd be very disappointed with that. They're trying to build momentum. People are giving out about Pochettino now already. So
yeah. Did you see Elanga's goal?
Yeah, it's class.
It was an excellent goal.
Class. He's looking great. He's looking very good from a United point of view. He's looking very, very decent.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is,
final game then, Luton 1, West Ham 2. So, Dan, you had this predicted from last week, so fair play. You had given Luton a goal, which they got in the end. It wasn't enough, but it was cool to see the stadium all done up. But I just think that the writing is on the wall for Luton this season. Lenny, we did season predictions 2 weeks back, and relegation, we all had Luton. Would you agree that they're also on the way to back down?
Yeah, I'd have to say so. You know, they just about got up last year by the playoffs. You know, any number of teams could have got into that final four playoffs, and anyone could have won it. It was very tight that year, so they certainly weren't tearing the championship apart like Burnley were, and we can even see Burnley are struggling to deal with the Premier League this season.
I'm not happy about that. I don't like it at all. Vincent Kompany's struggling.
Yeah,
they could end up in trouble, but I just think that there are worse teams in the league than Burnley. So on that basis, at the moment, I'm going to say
it's a style of football, though, Dick. It's not, it's not simple.
It's
not, as Dan was saying last day. It's like what Blackpool did, when they came up. I think they can try and play the attractive football, but Brentford aren't Brentford where they are now without long ball up to Ivan Toney kind of job. So
they don't tighten up or going down. To be honest, I think.
Yeah. Do you think so?
I think they could now. Yeah. I think that they absolutely capitulated against Spurs as well. Yeah. But look, it's only 4 games in. It's a bit reactionary. Like they've only had 4 games. But I said it last week. The way they play, the open, expansive style, that's the way Kompany wants to play, which is fair enough. But you need the players to do that, and they're after getting absolutely spanked by Spurs, and they got spanked by Villa as well. So
Yeah.
You have to admire them for it, though.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And that's
Kompany's a hero, absolutely. But yeah, and I do there is a little bit of naivety coming up to Premier League and still believing he can play the way he played in the Championship. I mean, they have been found out very quickly. I just still have a feeling. I don't know why. I just have a feeling that they will be okay, but we'll see. Okay, we're going to move on now to a really interesting segment on Leeds United. I know there are a lot of Leeds fans that listen and watch the show. I have some very good friends who are Leeds fans. So this segment is called Leeds United to Hell and Back and Somewhere in Between. So I'm just going to give a very quick recap and then go on to ask Lenny some questions about Leeds. So in the early 2000s, the financial crisis saw Leeds having to sell all their star players, resulting in relegation to the Championship in 2004. 2007, poor results and entering administration relegated Leeds to League One, the third tier of English football. They clawed their way back to the Championship in 2010 and would spend the following 10 years trying to go one further, getting back to the Premier League. In 2020, under the guide of Marcelo Bielsa, Leeds were promoted back to the Premier League as Championship winners. Following a series of poor results, February 22 saw the dismissal of Bielsa and the appointment of Jesse Marsh. 1 year later, he was gone, and even the powers of Big Sam could not prevent Leeds from being relegated this past May. This only tells a fraction of the tale of Leeds United over the last 20 years. From the time they were relegated from the Premier League in 2004 to when they returned in 2020, those 16 years saw 15 different managers and 5 different owners. Okay, so Lenny, what is it like to be a Leeds fan, and what have the past 10, 15 years been like? Lay it all out.
Yeah, where do I start? Yeah, it's certainly interesting. It's never boring. It's often frustrating. You often want to, tear your hair out or hop your head off a wall in frustration. But I think everyone can take that with their own teams as well. But yeah,
I'd disagree. I think Leeds have been just one of, I don't know, of our generation, anyways, the 4 of us. Leeds are just a club that have been. It's like watching Dream Team.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, it's just every kind of football crisis that you can imagine seems to have happened to Leeds over the last 20 years. Managers in and out. I was looking through some of the managers that have come and gone, and there's some big names in there. But I mean, what have the kind of like? Did you ever fall out of love with them? Did you ever just say, "Feck this"? When they were League One, for example, what was that like?
Yeah, like it was. Yeah, the interest obviously waned, mostly due to the fact that when they're in League One, have you tried following a team in League One? You know, they're not on the telly all the time. This was, before social media, and you could just stream any match you wanted. Like, you were there back in the day, going on teletext, checking how do we do against Swindon. Staying up till about 1:30 in the morning for the Football League show with Manish and the boys.
Yes.
To watch a two
Oh,
segment. That was it
very
for
good.
That is commitment.
Did you ever go see them in League One?
Not in League One, but I did see them in the depths of the Championship, and it was kind of like,
tough, was it?
yeah, but you kind of enjoy how shite it is as well, because everyone,
I can relate to that 100%. I know exactly what you mean.
yeah,
It's almost there's something comical about it.
Yeah, it's
Like it was with City. It was with. Sorry, I'll come back to it in 1 sec, Danny. It was with City for one. There was a period of 4 months where City hadn't scored at home. 4 months we hadn't scored at home at all, and then Paulo Wanchop got a headed goal. I think it was against Newcastle, and I absolutely lost my head because it was so ridiculous. We were so bad, but there was just something comical about it. That like, look, this is what we are now. We just have to accept it. So, Lenny, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that resonates so much. Like going to Ellen Road in like the mid 2010s, like there was like this sort of gallows humor, like of being in purgatory, and it's just like, oh, great, we're playing Sheffield Wednesday. Oh, maybe it might be 1-0 instead of the usual 0-0. It was there was years there, like obviously they got back out of League One pretty quickly, but the years in the Championship after that, it was so hopeless between just the ownership not giving two shits and the managers. They were, milling through. Not many of them were really of any use. Even just the style of football. I think back to under Neil Warnock, which you would have thought would have been a good appointment given his record in the Championship, but yeah, that was one of the worst times under him. Like the football was terrible. No, he just signed all his lieutenants that he brings up with him, and just didn't work from the get go. So
it's like,
it really was.
Leeds have like a huge following in Ireland. Like I'd put obviously Liverpool and United would be up there as the top two in my opinion, but Leeds are very much next in line. And obviously, the likes of Johnny Giles, etc., has a huge is a huge reason for that. But I just get the feeling like you either love them or you hate them. Like a very good friend of mine is a Leeds fan. Again, I have a lot of neighbours who are Leeds fans. Like I have a soft spot for Leeds. Dan Howard, what's your opinion on Leeds? Kind of just in general, do you have a soft spot for them, or do you just?
Look, there's a big following in Ireland. I only kind of started. Well, I remember them when the Mark Viduka, Harry Kewell days, obviously when they were in the Premier League, but I didn't really follow them when they were in the Championship. But again, when they came up again recently with Bielsa and all that, I thought they were good. We're talking about Burnley there, they were trying to play football. Bielsa was all for his, attacking football. You kind of had to respect that, and like you knew Leeds were either going to ship 4 goals. If they lose a goal in the first few minutes, they could ship 4 goals. Like, you know what I mean? But also they could beat United 3-0 or 4-0 or whatever it is. So like they were very entertaining to watch when they were up, and it's kind of sad now that they're back. Like Ellen Road's always a great atmosphere on the telly and everything. So it's a pity now that you can't get that anymore. So yeah, we'll see how they get on this year. But it doesn't look like it started great.
Just actually a couple memories I have of Leeds when they were in League One. I went to a match with the friend of mine. We went to Leeds versus Tranmere in League One. The place was absolutely hopping. It was so cool to see. Like, I mean, and another memory from back then, League One, when you were in League One, didn't you go and beat United at Old Trafford? I think Jermaine Beckford got the goal as well.
Beckford, yeah,
and it was a good goal too. Like that was probably the highlight of,
Yeah, We're still dining out on that one.
So, come here. So championship from 2010 to 2020, things all changed under Marcelo Bielsa. So obviously, despite him being kind of dismissed, he's definitely retained like a cult hero status amongst Leeds fans, and I think everyone in the Premier League kind of just remembers him sitting on his bucket. That show us that thing on the right hand side of you there, sitting on his bucket.
I got a little statue there of him on his bucket. Yeah, and I think that's the iconic image everyone has of him sitting on the bucket beside the dugout.
What was it about him that Leeds fans took to him so much? Like, what was it? And can you explain to me Bielsa ball, exactly what that was?
Like, it's a hard one to just give a real straight answer for. It's many things. It was just when he took over, that was in 2018. So they'd been in the championship for 7-8 years at this stage. Hadn't even got to the playoffs. Came close a couple of years. A year or two beforehand, they got very close under Gary Monk. I remember that was kind of the only decent year they had in that decade, and they basically were in the top 6 until the last couple of weeks and blew it. And then Gary Monk pissed off that summer, and following season was nowhere again. So it was kind of we had our chance, and we're going to be stuck in this hellhole for another 20 years. So he came out of the blue, like, a complete left field appointment. I'm not going to say I knew of him before when he got announced, but I just remember a lot of people, getting very excited about it, and then seeing, this sort of manager Argentina, it was beginning to raise a few eyebrows, and certainly then as I read into it, I was getting excited. But then also Bielsa, I think he's made for Leeds because he's a bit of a header himself. Like, remember he got appointed at Lazio and walked out of the job 2 days later because he just fell out with the owners. That's the kind of fella he is. So he really was a good fit for Leeds when you're talking about things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
he came in that summer in 2018, and the year before they had Thomas Christensen for half the year, and then Paul Heckingbottom, who's with Sheffield United now. Very uninspiring football, a very uninspiring squad of players. Not against the managers, but we didn't really have a squad of players that looked like doing much. And with basically the same squad, I think there was only one addition, which was Bamford, who got injured for that whole season nearly. Maybe one or two others, but that same squad, which came 15th in the championship, overnight they were playing the best football in the league. Players who I thought were probably not good enough for League One were looking like, some of the best players playing the best football I'd ever seen out on the road. And it was from the instant, just the intensity of playing. It was breakfast stuff, and from years and years of watching, pretty mediocre football. I think it just captured everyone, and everyone just got on board straight away. And obviously results is one thing, but the side of play was so easy to watch. So that obviously is going to capture the imagination. But on top of that, it was just kind of the character of Bielsa is, like the way he conducted himself, the way he spoke, kind of like no other manager or anyone working in football kind of talks about the things he does. Like, he was quite open about, like, there's too many games, we're being paid too much, we need to play less games and get paid less. Like, he'd be going out saying things like that. He'd be constantly talking about how fans are getting ripped off. He would do a lot of things out of his own pocket. He got a gym installed in Ellen Road for like all the office staff. I think 150, 200 grand's worth paid out of his own pocket. Just things like that, which
that's class.
Obviously win you over. But then there was straight away there was like the kind of the stories and the scandals, like Spygate. I think that really
I remember that actually, yeah.
Because
that's brilliant though. Like, that's the kind of, it's those stories. And I heard as well, like, when he was living in Leeds, like, he lived in like a 1-bedroom apartment above a grocery store or something like that.
Yeah, He lives in a little
You know,
flat
like
like that, you know.
he
And
tried to fit into the local community, like
he used to walk to training every day. Like the club were like, "Oh, do you want to carry?" Like, "Ah, no, I like to walk." You know, just things like that.
that's
He
cool.
he was a bit of an odd character, but just very likable fella. And
Yeah, it definitely
you know,
sounds like an oddball, but it sounds like the perfect fit. The club with the manager, like it sounds
yeah,
just then and there. It captured the kind of Leeds needed something different, and they definitely got someone very different. And I know he was dismissed and all that, but he's definitely retained like a cult status within Leeds. And anyone I speak to, they loved kind of talking about those few years with Bielsa. And I suppose Kieran has asked me as well to ask you about the story about the bucket. So, in your own words, just very quickly explain to
yeah,
us this story. I'm interested.
yeah. So obviously, there's the famous bucket he sits on, and I think it was shortly after he was sacked or that summer. There was a Leeds fan on Twitter who reached out to the club and asked, "Do you have any buckets left for sale? He'd like one as a souvenir." And the club said that no, we don't have any, and we're not making any anymore. I think they used to sell them in the club shop, but he wasn't taking that for an answer. So he said, "Can you give me the name of the company that makes the buckets?" And they put him through with this company. They're like some plastic manufacturing company, somewhere local to Leeds. And he got in touch with them, asked, "Can I have 2 buckets, please?" And they were like, "Well, no, it's only financially viable for us if we make 16." So this chap then tweeted out into the Leeds Twitter sphere saying he wanted a bucket, and would there be anyone else interested? To make it worth his while. And I don't think he thought he'd get as much interest. And I obviously replied saying, "Yeah, put me down for one." I think he ended up having to order 90 buckets in the end.
Oh my
Brilliant.
God!
Yeah,
So you have this bucket at home.
yeah, I have it at home. Yeah, it's the nice standard blue bucket.
Lenny, is it the same
He's sitting
bucket as
on
he's
it.
sitting on? Can you show us it there? Is that the one he's sitting on there? Is that the same
I
as the
don't have.
statue though? It's a toy. It's the same
No, that's a bit of a
color.
statue. Yeah, but this is the full size bucket. Yeah, it's actually down.
But he's sitting. Is he sitting on the bucket there in this one?
Yeah, that's him like a little.
That's the bucket there, is it?
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
And
that's
do
the
you
statue.
ever, Lenny, like, do you ever, whenever you're back in at loan, like, do you ever go and sit on the bucket and just contemplate life? You know what the next steps are. Like, is it an
Yeah.
inspirational bucket?
Yeah, just sit in it and think about, should I do 4-2-3-1 with the ball or without the ball? No, it's just in a system. It's just something nice to put your feet. Like it sometimes gets in the way, but I'm just glad I got it because I'll always have it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
That's cool. That's cool.
you'll always look at it and you'll remember, oh, geez, remember those days when Bielsa was managing Leeds and we were beating City away from home with 10 men, and
I'd relax there, Lenny. Right, you came on to the show as a guest. You don't want to leave as a villain. I'm only joking.
Wait, can I ask Lenny a question?
Go ahead.
Just I suppose then moving past Bielsa. I know you talked a lot about Bielsa. Just moving past him then to, I suppose, modern day Leeds who were bet by Salford, who is owned by Man Utd there. Done by all the Man Utd. Yeah, but sure was a bitter pill to swallow. But just in regards, like David Farke has come in. What's your thoughts on him? And I know you've kind of had a bit of a stuttery start to the season, but what are your feelings or early vibes around Farke, and what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's the appointment we needed, especially after a year and a half of absolute dross going into the management door. He when he was first kind of sounded out, I wasn't too excited, but the more I kind of thought of it, I thought, yeah, this is a guy who knows how to get out of the championship. He's done it twice, and he's done it playing very good football. And then once he came in, he got announced and spoke. He spoke very well. He's had so much issues to deal with from the get-go. There's obviously been the mass exodus of all the players, especially anything they've signed in the last 2 years since they got promoted. Some of the clauses that are in their contracts.
I was reading about that. Yeah, the loan one is a crazy one, isn't it? The one where they could get out on loan. What's it?
Yeah. So any player, these relegation clauses. So the standard one is if a club offers X amount, they can go off. But the other one is if a club comes in and offers to match their salary, they're obliged to go out on loan. And so who, like, obviously the previous director of football, Victor Orta, was involved in these contracts. He's obviously gone, and Daniel Farke essentially, ridiculed him without actually saying so, obviously being a bit more diplomatic about it. But he was, basically saying, like, why do you have these clauses in contracts? Like, if you're coming to sign for Leeds, you're coming to play for Leeds, whether you're in the Premier League or not. And I think it just goes to show, like, we signed a lot of these lads. A lot of them were old Jesse Marsh good headings from Salzburg or the US and other players in Europe. But I think it became apparent that none of these lads wanted to play for Leeds. They just wanted to be a Premier League player or play for their old coach, Jesse Marsh. And, and probably that goes across the board for most players playing the Premier League outside of, say, the so-called Big Six. I think, any of them who are coming from any of the other European big leagues, they're probably getting a huge salary increase and, more exposure, playing at a higher standard. And, they don't want to be playing Tuesday nights against Bristol City when it comes down to it. But, they're the ones who got us down. So it's kind of frustrating that, they played shite enough to get us relegated, but then they think they're too good to actually play for us in the Championship. So, I think Farke spoke well, saying, look, if they don't want to be here, they can piss off, and we'll get lads here who are committed and playing for Leeds and getting us back into the Premier League. So it has been a rocky start with all this disruption, but they made some good signings in the last couple of weeks. So I think they
got a few Premier League players in, didn't they? Like young Premier League players, some of them in Spurs, and you get one or two from Spurs.
Yeah, they got Joe Roden. So and they also got Jed Spence there last week. So I think they're good signs. You got Ethan Ampadu from Chelsea. He's been playing very well.
That's right.
And I think the best signing has been Joel Pirro. A proven Championship striker.
His record is 1-2, isn't it, or something? He's a really he's for Swansea.
Really yeah. And I think last year, especially the last 2 years in the Premier League, they often, overthought transfers. Instead of going for an obvious, proven Premier League player, they were looking for this, trying to moneyball it, and we can find some fella playing in the Bundesliga, or and turns out they weren't good enough. So I'm kind of happy with the way things are going, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't go straight back up. And Farke has spoke a lot, saying that this is a long-term project. It mightn't happen in the first year, and setting expectations straight. And that was the same when he was at Norwich. They didn't go up the first year round, but they went up this following year. So I'd rather us come somewhere in the playoffs or near it and have a decent season than swirling around the plug hole or someone trying to dodge 17th and getting hammered every week. So. It's refreshing to be back, playing, thinking you can actually win a game. So, exciting now for the rest of the season.
Good stuff. Well, Danny, cheers for all that. We will leave that segment. So, Leeds United to hell and back and somewhere in between. Watch this space. We'll see what happens with Leeds. I do hope they're back, though. Okay, now we will move on to the transfer window review. Okay, so it has been a crazy summer with the Saudi Pro League having a major impact on transfers as well. But just for the English transfer window itself. So I want to know a few things for the three lads today. Okay, so which club did the best business? Which club did the worst business? The bargain buy of the summer and the best signing of the window. So Howard, I'm going to start with you. In your opinion, which club did the best business over the summer?
I have Villa put down here now because I think they're trying to bring the team up to another level. I think Diaby and Tielemans and Pau Torres, I think, will be Diaby looks like a quality player. I think he's going to be. I'm not sure how long he'd even stay at Villa. And on top of that, they've kept like their key players like your Watkins, and your McGinns and all that. So I have them put down now. As Dan was saying earlier on, Emery has a certain way of playing, and will this maybe even be a detriment that they're bringing in these flair players? Might nearly fire back on his style of play, that he's nearly has too many of these kind of stylistic, talented players when he's more used to just your steady Steven and Nzonzi in the midfield, break and play up. So look, we'll see what happens. I actually, if Timber didn't get injured, I would have put down Arsenal.
I would have actually thought you were going to go with Arsenal, because I myself thought that they have had a very good summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, I would have put it down, but the Timber injury has been a bit of a killer in that aspect.
Okay. Dan, next to you. What club did the best business for you?
Yeah, so I just had a best financial business. I thought Brighton, as always, are always there. But they managed to get for Saedo in the end. So I just had best financial business Brighton, but I went for Hammers. I think Hammers overall have done the best business. I thought Ward-Prowse, obviously getting him in, have him actually, we'll talk about him a little bit. I thought Alvarez is very good the other night, and that as well. He's tidy. I think he'll suit in there well, and they signed him. I think I know he was at Arsenal for a little bit, but I think they needed another bit of cover at centre half. And your man, is it Mavropanos or the Greek lad?
Oh, Mavropanos, yeah.
Like he comes with a big reputation for what he done last season in Germany. And I think defensively he's another big tower. Moisey, Ward-Prowse going to be whipping balls into him. I think he was a good one. And then probably the one that'll be interesting to see how he gets on is your man Kudus. Again, another Ajax player in that as well, who's actually played quite a lot, played a lot of Champions League minutes in that as well. And they need kind of someone in that can chip him a goal. So I've gone for them, and another reason why I've gone for them as well, even though it kind of doesn't sit well with me, but the fact that they didn't get rid of Paqueta, and he could see exactly how, the fact that the sale didn't go through the city. I think the fact that they've kept him, now it doesn't sit well with me, because I feel with what's going on at the moment, and I felt the same about Tony, I don't think that these players should actually play, and that's just my own opinion on it. I know there's the innocent to be proven guilty, but I think when you're under suspicion, and there's quite a lot of evidence seems to be pointing at him, I don't really think he should be playing. But besides that, he's a baller. I thought if he went to City, he'd be an excellent sign, and maybe potentially a long-term replacement to Ryan. I know Deck doesn't particularly agree with that, but I think keeping him as well was a big plus for the Hammers, and I think they've done really good business. I know obviously Rice is gone, but they got really good coin for really good money for Rice, and they started really well as well. So I've gone for the Hammers.
Cool. No, I'd agree with that as well. And West Ham, like in terms of their signings, like they started late. What I mean? You remember this, during the summer when like every club had signed someone apart from West Ham, and we were in a group chat with a West Ham United fan, and we were just kind of he was taking the piss out of himself. We were concerned for him. They hadn't signed anybody. Everyone else is making moves, and he was just there looking out the window, watching the rain. He was just, what the hell?
He was on his bucket. He was on his bucket there.
With 100 million sitting in the bank account as well, like.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, Lenny, in your opinion, which club did the best business?
I'd have to agree with Dan and say Brighton as well, but not only financially, but some of the incomings as well. I think your man Fatty from Barcelona.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, imagine being a Brighton fan now and thinking that they're able to get lads from Barcelona. It's
absolutely.
Yeah, and even the keeper they got, Verbruggen, he's looked pretty solid and only 20 years old as well. Like, so, he
looks so comfortable playing out from the back, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, and
the goalie, yeah.
And
I can't wait. Sorry, Lenny, go ahead.
Yeah, and just the way like Brighton are, they're still powering through this year. This is, their first kind of full season now with De Zerbi. Like, he's had a full pre-season with them, so I think there'll be no let up from them, in them and continue on their way. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
The money they get in for those lads as well, it's a good old business model going.
Okay, Lenny, we'll stay with you. Next question. which club, in your opinion, did the worst business this summer?
Oh, there's a lot of teams vying for it. I think just with the amount of money being bandied around with there's obviously later in the window then the desperation goes in, but I think I just have to look at Chelsea and wonder, like, where is this all going long term? I know that they think they're getting around the system with these long term contracts and this word that we all now know, amortization.
Howard has made that word famous on this show.
Can you spell it?
Amortization. It is. No, I fully agree with Lenny on this one. That Chelsea, it's like Todd Bowley is playing football manager in idiot mode. He just we've talked about this a few times.
Yeah.
But,
it could be detrimental. I think, like, we could be saying in 3 or 4 years time, like, Lenny, from the Leeds side of things, the financial crisis and all that, you could be looking like that in Chelsea in 3 or 4 years time, and us picking whoever, Wolves or whoever, for the worst thing, and then, like, it was so obvious Chelsea's team that the players they brought in, like, sure, you don't know half of them, like, you know what I mean? And like, they could be great. Their average age is like 21 now or something, but like, it's not gonna go. It's not gonna happen straight away. But anyway,
Howard, who was your worst team?
I actually had Wolves down.
Wolves,
I think Neves, Moutinho, Cody, Jimenez, Traore, Nunes, Costa, they all left.
They got rid of so many. Absolutely. I mean,
so it could be nip and tuck for them. Like, they have shown, like, that game against United, it looked really good. But it's just like they obviously are caught financially, so we'll see what happens with them. It hasn't been a great. If you're a Wolves fan, you're not particularly happy with the business they've done. I guess
lost Nunes on the last day of the season.
I think Jorge Mendes is the agent for all the players that come in for Wolves, so he's kind of maybe screwed them over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah. All right, Dan, we'll move on to you. What club, in your opinion, did the worst business?
Yeah, so I suppose Howard has listed them all there. There's 8 of them at Wolves that went out the door, and of the 8, I think 7 of them were starters, or at least 6 of them were starters. So it kind of puts it into perspective that they've cleared them out. Got good money probably for 1 or 2 of them, which I think they need. That's probably, I think, is the reasons, the financial fair play that's kind of caught them out. But they haven't brought in much at all, and they've had a poor start. And then I had Everton down. I think we've talked about that several times as well. I think they can't go without me. That was a really strange one on deadline day. You could argue he was probably their best player their best player maybe last season, even though that doesn't say a whole lot really. But he was their best one. And Mari Gray was probably the other one. I know that's still an ongoing issue. He's looking to go to Saudi. Deitch now, when Iwobi went, this trouble trying to stop it. I don't know what stage that's at, but apparently he agreed personal terms. So, like, the fact that we're getting rid of both of them. And I know they got Jack Harrison in. I know Lenny there would know good about. If you look at it, they've taken a punt on Beto, a big power of Portuguese, I think, powerhouse, to play up front. I think he scored against Doncaster in midweek there, but like they're really gambling on him hitting the ground running, and an okay record in Italy. But yeah, I think that their business has been poor, and I think Moses is probably the worst, but Wolves. But there is a lot, as Lenny said there. There's several contenders. I just think that we're being a bit harsh on Chelsea because there's so many of them that have gone in, signed so many players, because they had signed some players that are very good players. Like Nkunku's after getting injured, I think an awful lot of clubs would have taken him. Obviously Saido, so there is one. I think centre half that they signed as well. Ziassi, I think he looks like he'd be a good player for them as well. So they have signed good players, but they probably signed too many. I think Cole Palmer, and we won't talk about that because we'll be here for a while, Jack. I think the Cole Palmer one was a bit of a bizarre one on me now. A very strange one, strange. But anyway, yeah.
Strange in that, like, in how do you mean strange?
It went in a few different.
Sorry, I just think strange is in, like, he looked like an up and coming player for City, and then 40 million, 45 million. It was like, who's getting the best deal here? Is like City just doing it just because, he doesn't want to be there, and Pep's like, if you don't want to play or whatever, you're gone? Or is it the fact that they actually don't maybe rate him as highly as the words that are going around? So it's a kind of strange one. So it's very hard to know which way that'll go. It could be a great signing for Chelsea, or it could be kind of guy who has all his talent and then it never ends up being what you think it's going to be. What do you think, Deck? You see more of him than me.
I've kind of had this conversation with a few people over the last few days. I think it is. It was basically on Pep's kind of decision. He said to kind of Palmer, "Do you want to stay and fight for a position?" Which would have been tough to get because I mean he's going up against the likes of look on the right and left wing. You have Foden, you have Grealish, you have Bernardo Silva, new signing Jeremy Doku. It was going to be tough for him to get those minutes, and he's a talented player. He deserves to play. Had he stayed and fought for it, he would have got time now and again. But I just have the feeling. I'm not basing this on any information like that. I just have the feeling that he was let go very easily. There didn't seem to be much kind of effort to stop him from going. He came up in the same team that Foden came up in, and he was held in very high regard. Not as highly as Foden, but he was held in high regard. I just get the feeling that there was possibly the thought that he is good, but I think he is a player that we can.
Yeah,
I think I could be proven wrong. He could turn out to be a world class player, but he deserves to play, and he has a wand of a left foot. He could be brilliant for Chelsea. So we'll see what happens. Dan, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think when he looked at the fact that he came on the Community Shield, scored, and was probably one of City's best players, and scored against Sevilla in Super Cup, and then you see them bringing in Doku, who can play either side, fucking 55 million. You're probably sitting there going, but fuck me, I'm taking my chances, and you're after bringing in another lad for big money who's obviously going to play. So it's interesting. I think that's a good sign for Chelsea, and I know there was a very much conversation online around the fee. Some think that the fee was too big. Some think the fee wasn't enough. I think that it was actually a small fee. I know City have is it a 50% on a future sale? If he sold it on in the future, it's 50%. So I get that, but I kind of thought fair enough, he hasn't had a massive amount of games under his belt, but when he's played in that City team with all world class players, he hasn't looked out of place for me. And I thought the money that considering the sort of money Chelsea are throwing out, I thought that he actually was a decent enough price for what Chelsea got. But anyway, time will tell with him. So.
All right, cool. The bargain buy of the summer, Lenny. We'll start with you on this one.
Definitely, I'd have to say Youri Tielemans to Villa on a free.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was an excellent one as well.
It's
sorry, go ahead, Lenny.
Yeah, I think it was more a bad deal by Leicester to how he got away in a free than a great deal for Villa. But yeah, I think he's fair. So yeah.
Howard, who's your bargain of the season?
I have Maddison. I'm sure Dan probably had Maddison, but like Maddison, as you said, he's hit the ground running. He looks quite like he was a quality player at Leicester. So I can see as long as he stays fit, he'll make a huge difference to Tottenham. 40 million in this day and age for a player his quality is top. Yeah, it's a bargain.
Yeah, no, very good point. Dan, bargain of the season.
I had him down, Howard, but I've gone for JWP for 30 million.
Oh, so
James Ward-Prowse. Yeah, I think for the way that a lot, and I think of what we could have done with looking for midfielders and that as well. The fact that he managed to go for 30 mil, he was Southampton's captain. He's ultra consistent in regards. He'll always be whipping in with assists. He, might be the most fancy player. He doesn't get a lot of headlines. I think the fact that he plays for Southampton is something to do with that as well. But he's gone into West Ham side, who have always relied on set pieces under Moisey. It's one of his ploys. It always has been. And he's got in there. He's already started well with assists. So for 30 million, he was Southampton's captain. So you've got leadership there. You've lost Rice, but Prowse is a natural leader, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
He didn't get in the England squad, didn't he? Not, which I thought, and Maddison did. We're awesome didn't get in it.
And somehow Calvin Phillips and Harry Maguire did.
Yeah. But he's mine anyway. I think again, just sticking with the Hammers. I think that 30 million for him, considering his age and that as well, I thought was really good business.
That was brilliant business, absolutely. Lenny, the best signing in your opinion of the window?
I would have said Maddison. I didn't think he was going to be the best value for money, but yeah, I think he's delivering already. I suppose I was trying to think of anyone else now. I'd say Rice now is the time to shine for him. And, if he can have a decent season with Arsenal, I think they're well on their way because, everyone was looking to get Rice during the summer. So I think, he'll be the one to watch now.
Howard, signing of the window.
Yeah, Lenny took the words out of my mouth. I Rice, obviously, being the Arsenal fan, but no, I think you could pay 105 million or whatever for him, but look, you're going to have him just enter in midfield for the next 5-6 years. At the game against United, he's the kind of guy he can give him the ball and he'll keep it, but he'll also drive the team forward. Like he's actually. I remember watching him with England a few years back, and I remember thinking when he went into that England team, the difference, the level of England went up when he was in the squad or in the starting 11. So it'll take him a while to get used to the way that Arsenal play, but I think he's going to be. I think we've only seen a snippet, I think, of what he's capable of. I think he's gonna keep getting better and better as the years go on. So potential future Arsenal captain, even though all our Irish kind of roots would be wanting us to hate him, but yeah, it's hard to when he's wearing the Arsenal jersey.
All right, and finally, Dan, signing of the window.
Yeah, so I want to give one or two honourable mentions. So I had Madison down in that category, and I had Diaby, who Howard's mentioned both. Yeah. So I had them down, but I've actually gone for Szoboszlai, and it's based on the 4 games that I've seen so far. I'm really, really excited about him, and I think come the end of the season, if Liverpool are going to do anything or get back in the Champions League, he's going to be key, very much so. He can do everything. He has really, I like one thing in particular, the energy. He's running for 90 minutes. He is in people's faces. He can shoot from distance. He isn't afraid to put in a tackle. And the big thing for us as a Liverpool fan that we haven't had as well is that he gets beyond forward players, takes people on, and I'm very excited by him. And in the opening 4 games, he's the one. I know, obviously watching the Liverpool ones probably more closely, but he's very exciting because you have to remember he's gone into a non-functioning, brand new midfield, and he's starring in that midfield in the opening exchanges. So I think that he could be come the end of the season. Could be the sign of the season. If Liverpool need to regenerate the midfield. So
he looks very decent.
Yeah.
He does. No, in fairness, I'll give you credit there. He does look excellent. Rice looks excellent. Matt, in fairness, all 3 of your kind of signings on the window have had excellent starts to the season. Time will tell who'll kind of pull away and have the best start of the season.
Can I just say as well, that's something else I had down here is United was, they had a questionable transfer window, but I think that signing that they have the Amrabat now really is crucial for them. I think that was they needed to get that done. If they didn't get that done, I thought their top 4, I think they were struggling. But I think he looks, from watching him in the World Cup and a bit in the Europa Conference League last year, he looks like a proper player. Like Casemiro there, I must say, at the weekend, I didn't see him at all. He was not the player that he was. Remember when he first joined last season, like maybe in January, February, he was killing it. Like he was probably the best defensive fielder in the league. And there at the weekend, now I've heard when he was at Madrid as well that he starts slowly. Maybe he finds it tough to get his fitness or whatever. But if that's him now peaked and he's not going to keep United getting better and better, they're in a bit of bother there. Amrabat though, I think will be very important for them.
I mean, Kieran spoke a few weeks ago, and he had a term for it, the psychodrama of United. That that tends to kind of take off around mid-season. Like it's already started.
Yeah.
I mean, their transfer window, the Glazers, now over the weekend, Jadon Sancho coming out and kind of talking as well about responding to Ten Hag's comments. I mean, this sort of stuff, this shouldn't be out in the public. This should all be kept in-house. That's what Ferguson, I don't like the man, but that's what he was excellent at doing. He kept the team, he kept everything within, inside the club. But I mean, Jesus Christ, the Glazers wanting to go up to 10 billion, supposedly taking the club off the market, wait until 2025, closer to the World Cup when it's in USA.
United fans, I'd say, are after the start they've had, I'd say they're pulling their hair out because Like they're looking
course.
at last season, they're like Ten Hag, he's made, he's got rid of the deadwood, they're making strides, we're getting better and better, and like, what are we going to do next season? We could be, we could be challenging for the title, and now it's just been like stagnant. Like, we
Yeah.
signed Onana who can play passes behind the around the back, like, which makes your whole game very boring. But anyway, it's not like all the teams do it, but like, not to the extent they did it at the weekend, but like it must be infuriating for them because they're expecting Ten Hag. They think Ten Hag is the appointment to get them there. And look, he could
Yeah.
be. He could easily be. But if he flops this season, they're back again to like Solskjaer got them second, or Mourinho got them second or whatever. So like it's not like Ten Hag has pulled any trees up, but like you'd like to think that they're going to improve on what they did last year, but it doesn't look like that at the moment.
Yeah. Lenny, just as a Leeds United fan, what's your opinion on Man United? Be as honest as you like here. The air is yours. Go for it.
Raw, unedited.
Be raw, unedited. I'm not going to edit a fucking thing. Go mad.
I think the last few years, the post Fergie era, I think has been very enjoyable from a Leeds perspective. Obviously they were so used to success and just as taking it for granted, and now that's not the case between Ferguson leaving and then the rise of Man City and Liverpool and Chelsea obviously being one of the main protagonists in the Premier League. But I find that the kind of entitlement you could somewhat they have is just I find it funny because they basically get everything they want. When they want a new manager, they get a new manager. When they want to get Ronaldo back, they get Ronaldo back. When they want to blow 100 million on whatever player they get, but yet they still hate the owners. So I find it very funny. There's a lot worse
That's
owners.
a fair.
Not
That's a
saying
fair point.
they basically got whatever they
Dan,
want.
Dan, you've made that point as well before that, like, they give out when they give out with the Glazers, but yet the Glazers have spent money for United. So I mean, do you want to delve into that a little bit? Or?
Not really. No, not really. I think there's obviously an awful lot more. There's more problems than just the transfer business that's been spent. There's the stadium. There's the dividends that's been taken out. Like, granted, they have been able to spend money. This window they haven't been, though, with FFP and not being able to sell players because they fought poorly. Like, that's it goes back to there's the Glazers. It's also who the Glazers have appointed in the past, like Woodward, guys that just weren't able to get good business done and overspending on players and giving them big wages on books. So there is an element of that the Glazers are hiring these people. They're bringing them in, their businessmen. There's definitely the club is. I think most Man United fans agree now. It's soulless at the moment. Whether the Saudi come in and buy it, whether does that give it soul? That's a question I'd have because it's
yeah.
What is they want the Glazers gone, and it seems to be at whenever it doesn't matter who comes in. I think at this stage they just want them gone. So, but will it get sold if they get Saudi and it's going to pump millions and billions into it? But they're in trouble at the moment, and again, I think Hag probably overachieved what he had last year. Like they know Varane's injury records, they know what that is, and you've Lindelof coming in who isn't being good enough, or Maguire, and then even now Evans. Like it's as Howard said there, or around the players that they brought in, they're buying in players, and they still ended up against Arsenal in a massive game with Maguire and Evans
going back the way, like
and as well. It'd be interesting. I think if the new man gets in and if he starts to fire, and then they get Armbat into the middle and that as well, he could be maybe a much better outfit after the international break. But Dallo played well as well. Yeah. He seems to be able to play left and right back. But in regards to the Glazers, they have spent money. They have, of course, they have. There's been big money spent on United. They're one of the biggest spenders, and we're slagging Chelsea off now for spending a ridiculous amount of money over a short period of time. But Man United have done that over the last 10 years, so that there is that and hasn't really got them anywhere really, or back to where they feel that they should be. So yeah, I think that that when you take up that going on in the background, and Neville mentioned that as well, it must be a big headache for the club, for the staff, for everyone there. So it's not that whole toxicity from Ronaldo going. that hasn't solved the big problem. It's the Glazers is the big problem. Ronaldo's going to get back to that.
And just Mark, who was on the show 2 weeks ago, he was saying during the week it wouldn't surprise him if Ten Hag was to walk if things kind of deteriorated further. Or no, he wouldn't be afraid to walk. That's what he was saying. He wouldn't be afraid to walk if kind of things deteriorated further, which would be an interesting kind of conversation to have maybe 2 or 3 months down the line, see how United's season is unfolding. But time will tell. We'll see what happens. Right, we'll move on now, guys, to fantasy football. An update from Dan.
Yes.
I do understand that Howard has had a redemption, so please tell us a little bit about that first.
Howard, you give a redemption. I'm just getting this.
Well, whoever was calling me out last week, I'm sure I've beaten their points tally this week because I think did I have the highest. Did I have the highest points tally, Dan? I think in the league.
No, you didn't actually. There's a friend of mine, David Halloran, and he had Kelleher's Heroes, who got 114 points. Howard.
Oh my God! Well, I thought surely my score. Yeah. What did I have?
You had 91, but I got 114 deserves a mention. I actually messaged him to say I was going to mention it as well.
Insane. That's insane.
Yeah,
must have Ferguson, is it?
I'll tell you now, he had obviously, like most people, Haaland was his captain, but he had Archer and Ferguson, Salah, Eze, Trent actually got 12 points as well, and Saka, so he finished with 114.
That's a great team.
Yeah, and a big shout out there to Y'all Need Jesus. So Stephen Flynn is still is up there. He's leading it with 275. So most people,
your brother was knocked off the top. He was
knocked off his perch. He wasn't too happy about it now. He's a smoke fucker at the best of times. So I know. He had a good enough week though. Well, like I suppose most people had a good week. But then a lot of people like Howard there, they really went for City, so they had Alvarez and Haaland.
And Foden. And Foden as well.
So that really paid dividends there. And it'll be interesting now. Obviously, there's the international break. We'll come back after that. We'll see what state teams are in. But usually after the first international break, an awful lot of people use the wild card. So I'm debating it at the moment. And I think a lot of other people are too. So
where do you find yourself down at the moment in the table?
I am in a gentleman's 16th.
Not bad.
And there's only about 30 points in it. So, Howard is.
Where's Howard brought himself to?
Howard actually had a great week, but he's still behind me, Howard. Let me see now. So,
I am, of course, yeah.
26th.
Yeah.
Hold on a sec, Howard. You were in 33rd last week. You had supposedly a redemption, and you've gone up a whole 7 places to 26th.
You can't underestimate how bad a week I had that last week. That was the problem. You couldn't underestimate that.
You hit the record book.
Yeah, this week it was. I got the City lads. Alvarez had a great game, by the way. I had him, and he at 6.5. I think what he is. He's a nice little handy one to have up top. I know a lot of people don't like having Haaland and Alvarez, but you could put him on the bench, if you need to. But look, it's only 4 game weeks or 4 weeks in. We keep saying that now, after 10 weeks, we're only 10 weeks, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and do you know what? I just want to give a shout out as well to the Hurt Locker FC. He decided after he'd gone through enough hurt in the first few weeks, he took Haaland in his team. He decided.
Good man.
And he had a good week.
Of course, yeah.
Otherwise, to be honest with you, I'd be concerned for his well-being because Haaland got 40 points. If he didn't have him, he was hurt. Yeah.
Okay. Final piece, lads. Monksland United, last man standing. There were 34 eliminated over the weekend, so there's around 100 people left. I'm gone as of 2 weeks ago. Dan, who did you have?
I had City.
Okay, fair enough. Chelsea, obviously, a few got knocked out because of that. So, who do you have next week, Dan? Or sorry, when you come back, you said you had the next 5 weeks picked.
Yeah, but I'm not disclosing that. I'm not disclosing that on this podcast. I'll hold on. I don't want to be
serious.
I want more lads gone.
You don't want to be giving away your tactical nous.
No, I'm trying to think now who is a good week. I think our Spurs are at home against Sheffield United, aren't they? I think that was one.
Yeah.
And someone else, whoever Luton are playing every week is working.
Yeah. It's probably a safe bet, I'd say.
I can't remember who they're playing. Who's playing Luton, but that was another one.
Yeah. All right, so Cool. Monksland United, they start off the season this coming Sunday the 10th versus Mullingar Town. Kickoff is at 11 a.m. in Cushla Park. So if you are around, please do call down to them and support the team. That will do us for this week, men. Howard and Dan, as usual, thank you very much. Lenny, I actually found that piece on Leeds United brilliant. And I have a lot of friends, a lot of people that are going to be really interested in hearing that. They're just a club that they've been going up. They've gone through hell. And they're still going through hell. But you just know that they're going to pop back up eventually. And, you know, the story will continue. So thank you very much as well for coming on the show.
Thanks very much for having me back. Yeah, and
not all. We'll definitely have you back on. All right, lads. Listen, have a good week, and for anyone watching and listening, please do subscribe and follow on YouTube and Spotify. You can follow us on Instagram at Football Fanatic Podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to contact the show on Instagram or email footballfanaticpodcast@gmail.com. Man, we will leave it there.
Oh yeah, Twitter as well.
Apologies. Yeah, we are now on Twitter. Howard is our Twitter social media manager. So any hate mail is directed towards Howard.
I was trying to be anonymous, Dag. You should.
Yeah. After what I said about Man United, he'd be lucky if he's here next week.
Howard will be disappeared. Lenny's taking his place. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Okay, have a good week.
Cheers, Dag. Right. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Good luck. Come on.